Hello guys, welcome again to our farms, Surak Farms. Today in this video we are going to explain the types of farming that we have in Africa, or I should say worldwide. We have three types of farming that I'm going to explain today, and you the farmers watching me or any other person watching me today, you are going to know where most of our farmers, for most of our livestock farmers, fall within this type of farming. The type of farming we have extensive farming, we have semi-intensive farming, and we have intensive farming. Types of livestock farming: extensive, semi-intensive, and intensive farming. Now, extensive farming. This is the oldest way of livestock farming. I mean, an ancient way of doing livestock farming. This is the method. This is in the olden days. This is the method most livestock farmers use. In this method, the animals are not confined within a specific area. Normally, in their extensive farming, the animals go out to graze long distances. They come back home. The next day they go out to graze, and most of the times this type of farming is the cheapest mode of livestock farming. And secondly, we have the semi-intensive farming. The semi-intensive farming is in between the extensive and the intensive farming. The semi-intensive farming, the animals are confined within a wider area. For example, someone has 10 acres of land and he uses 2 acres of land to house the animals. The 2 acres of land are used for housing the animals, and the rest of the 8 acres of land are used for grazing. This means that when the animals go out to graze, they go out to graze within the confinement of the 10 acres of land. It means, unlike the extensive, they can go beyond 10 acres, 20 acres of land, very, very far. But the semi-intensive, the animals graze within the confinement of the 10 acres. That is, when they come home from grazing, they go to their pen, and the next day they go out for graze, but they are always within the confinement of the area. This is, they can't go out beyond the 10 acres. Now, I think we now have a better understanding of the extensive and the semi-intensive farming. So we are going to delve in the intensive farming. The intensive farming is a kind of farm. It is a type of farming that the animals are confined within an area, that the animals do not go out for grazing. Whatever they eat is brought by the owner of the farms, or the laborers or the workers of the farm. This means that whatever movement the animals do, they do it within the pen. Whatever they eat within the pen. They don't go out for grazing. They are kept at one place, fed and grew. So you can see the difference. The extensive farming, the animals go out for grazing, which at the extensive farming, the animals go out for grazing. Their limits, their distance of grazing has no limits. They can go very far. But the semi-intensive, they can go out for grazing, and their distance for grazing is limited. It's limited within the confinements of the area, even though they still go out for grazing. But the intensive farming, they don't really go out for grazing. They are always kept in the pen. Whatever movement they do it within the pen, they eat within the pen, and other stuffs. Their treatment, their medication, they are always confined at one place. So for the extensive, the animals go out without limitation for grazing. The semi-intensive, they go out for grazing within the confinement of an area, and the intensive, they don't go out for grazing. They always graze within their pen. Their food is always brought to them. They eat within the pen. They make their movements within the pen, and so on. So I think these are the explanations of the types of farming that we have. And when we look at Africa here, the most common type of farming is extensive farming. In Africa here, that's the most common type of farming that we have in Africa. That's extensive farming. The semi-intensive and the intensive farming, some of them you can find them outside Africa, maybe in some places like Mexico, United States. They do the semi-intensive farming, but the intensive farming too, it's within outside. It's not common in Africa here. It is only 1 or 2 places that I saw intensive farming. For example, a country like Gambia, they do intensive farming. They confine their, especially sheep farming. Their sheep don't go out. They confine the sheep in an area. They do intensive farming. You can see a whole nice building, but there is a sheep pen inside the building. It's well confined. The animals are there. They don't go out. They are feeding. They are everything. They take it inside the pen. The movements they do, everything they do is within the pen, and so on. So I would like us to go for a commercial break. Now, welcome back. Now we are going to discuss the advantages and the disadvantages of the types of farming that we have. Now, I will start by taking the extensive farming. For the advantages in the extensive farming, one of the biggest advantages in the extensive farming is running an extensive farming is much cheaper. You don't spend too much money in their feeding because the animals themselves go out for grazing. Yeah, and you don't need to employ too many people to handle the herds. Once the animals go out for grazing, they feed on themselves. Whatever they come across, they eat it and they are okay. You don't need to go out there and buy any feed. So there is low cost in there's no too much cost in extensive farming. So the disadvantage in extensive farming is that normally people have a lot of issues with herdsmen or farmers who practice extensive farming. Normally, one disadvantage is that when the animals go out, they come in contact with pests, that is ticks and fly. Normally, some of them are bitten by fly and they don't look healthy. And secondly, too, when the animals go out to graze, they go into other people's farms and destroy the farms. And this has brought a whole lot of issues with the farmers and the herdsmen. So this disadvantage of animals, of these animals going into people's farms and destroy, has resulted into some time ago farmers killing people's cattle because they destroy their hard work, as well as when the animals too go out, they destroy their hard work, as well as when the animals too go out, they go out into maybe people's uncompleted building. You see, a cattle is a heavy animal. Once the body could hit a wall, the wall could easily break down. And this too has brought an issue with extensive farming. So these are the advantages and the disadvantages. Now let's move to semi-intensive. For semi-intensive, I would say that it doesn't have that much advantages and disadvantages. From the little that we know, the semi-intensive is quite costly because that is the advantages is that the animals go out to graze, but what the animals eat can be controlled. They don't eat anything. And the pests around their area, because semi-intensive, the animals are within the confinement of an area, so what they eat can be controlled. The pests are controlled within the area, so the animals don't really come in contact with pests, fly and ticks that will affect them later. So with the advantages of the semi-intensive, it is quite expensive. It is quite expensive a little, and that one too, you don't need to employ too many people to handle that type of farming. And this type of farming has been done in outside Africa. Most of the white people, that's the type of farming that they practice. The animals go out within the confinement. What they eat can be controlled. That's an advantage, and it helps them a lot. They don't eat anything that will have any bad effects on them. So the disadvantages, I wouldn't say that semi-intensive has some disadvantages, but definitely it should have, because the disadvantage is that once the animals are in a confined area, it is capital intensive, because they are going to spend money in pest control, or fumigating the farms, so that they don't come in contact with pests and all that. I think that's semi-intensive don't have this kind of much explanation. So the intensive farming, since the animals are confined within an area that they don't go out, they eat there, they drink there, every movement that they do is within that area. So semi-intensive, the disadvantages in semi-intensive, it is capital intensive. Semi-intensive, you spend a lot of money in intensive farming. You spend a lot of money in intensive farming than all the types of farming, because in intensive farming the animals do not go out, so you spend a lot of money in their feeding, in their treatments, but their housing, the money spent in doing the pen, so it's a whole lot of cost. Sometimes even if you have grass, the mobilization of the grass, like moving the grass from where it is to the animal's pen, is also costly. So the disadvantage in intensive farming is you tend to spend a lot in feeding the animals and treating the animals, but it also have advantages. Intensive farming advantages is that since the animals are confined within an area, they don't really go out for grazing and other stuffs. With the intensive farming, this advantage is that you don't have any troubles with people, since the animals don't go out. They don't go out for grazing and enter into people's farms or hit people's uncompleted building and all that. Another advantage of intensive farming is that for intensive farming, whatever the animals eat is controlled. They don't just eat anything, unlike the extensive farming. Whatever they eat is being controlled by the farmer, what they eat on daily basis. And the intensive farming too, they get good rations of food. In their rationing of food, they get good rations of food. It means they can eat different types of feed, a well controlled and a well prepared feed. For the intensive farming, they don't just eat anything. And another advantage of the intensive farming, the animals tend to grow much bigger and fatter within a shortest period of time, unlike the extensive farming. For the extensive farming, the animals, because they walk for a long distance, whatever they eat, they don't grow faster. Yeah, because they burn a lot of energy. But the intensive farming, the animals are at one place. They eat their feed, their movement is within the pen, so they don't burn a lot of energy. So they grow fatter within a shorter time than the extensive farming and livestock. Now, one big disadvantage, I'm talking about the disadvantage. One big disadvantage of intensive farming. Intensive farming is capital intensive. Yeah. Capital intensive means a whole lot of money go into